Pests beware, your fields have heroes. The Pests and Predators podcast is brought to you by Field Heroes and is powered by the Western Grains Research Foundation. Learn how beneficial insects fight pests and protect your crops. Visit fieldheroes.ca today.
We're joined right now by Richard Gupton, who's the Senior Vice President of Public Policy and Counsel with the Agriculture Retailers Association. Richard, it's great to chat with you.
Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, okay, so right now I think for a lot of your members, there's big concerns about some of the discussions about things like tariffs on products coming from overseas. Are you concerned about some of the lack of supply of some products?
Yeah, we're very concerned about all the uncertainty related to the tariff issues, particularly in the beginning, like with Canada and Mexico. The U.S. relies a lot on potash from Canada, the number one supplier in the world. And so we had a lot of anxiety from members about fertilizer supplies. With China, they get a lot of active ingredients for pesticide production here in the U.S. So there was a lot of concern about not only availability of product, but the price of product and how that's going to impact the supply chain and also our grower customers.
Yeah, with some of those activists, it makes sense to maybe bring some of that production back to the U.S., but it doesn't happen in 12 months or 24 months. Those are things that happen over 5 to 10 year periods.
That's right. So right now for the spring, our members and the industry's fine, but as this thing drags on and they're not able to resolve a lot of these trade disputes, as you go into the fall and into next year, it can be problematic on the pricing. If you're looking at the ag economy here in the U.S., farmers are struggling already. They're waiting on the uncertainty also with a tax bill that needs to be done in budget reconciliation in Congress, a new farm bill. And so all of that combined with this trade war and tariffs cause a lot of anxiety with our industry.
So from a product availability standpoint, that's trying to bring product into the country. What about some of the challenges getting products registered at EPA? How big of a concern is that for the membership?
Well, there's been a lot of turmoil or officials let go. It's a lot of federal agencies, including at EPA. The Office of Pesticide Programs is basically our industry's license to operate on registration of pesticides. So there's a major concern about the potential delay of getting products registered and announced. So we're working with the administration, working with Congress to make sure they have adequate funding, because it is one of the few I call it like the Department of Motor Vehicles within the EPA. That's our license to operate, and we want to make sure it's functioning properly for industry, because if it doesn't, you're not going to see new products in the marketplace.
Yeah, and some of the challenges, for the farm customer at the end of the day, battling weed resistance, there needs to be new technologies and new formulations brought to the market, or just a 2 to 3 year delay on some of these products could create major challenges at the farm level.
That's right. If they don't have a good rotation of products to use, and next year, to your point, they're going to create weed resistance, or if they're having to scale back because of environmental regulations and not adequately use those products when they're registered. And so we're working closely with the administration and Congress to try to make sure that's not an issue. I know they've announced efforts to try to reform the registration process, which we're favor, and hopefully that'll take place here within the next year.
So are the challenges at EPA, is it just setting a higher bar or a standard trying to get products through the system, or is it cutbacks like through the DOGE cuts?
It's a little bit of both. Before DOGE, there was already short staff because of retirements within the agency, so that introduces delays. Plus, there's a lot of new products that they're having to be under review, so that's also a delay. And you're also dealing with litigation under the Endangered Species Act, so that all of those things have compounded things within the industry.
I would imagine at ARA there was some shuddering when there was rumors floating around that Bayer potentially would remove Roundup from the marketplace due to some of the litigation that's going on.
That's right. That's one of the major products that's been used for decades. It's an effective product. It's actually good for like no-till conservation practices. It's good for climate change or smart ag practices. And so if you take that kind of a major product out of the marketplace, what's there to replace it? You'd have massive supply chain related issues. So we are glad that's a tool that remains available for our industry.
We had people in our audience say, yeah, but there'll be generics still on the market, but I'm not so sure.
Yeah, well, there are generics, but again, when you take a major product out of the market, you're having more competition with those other products. So that creates a supply chain issue and potentially increased costs. And and so the industry, if they're not prepared, the farmer won't get the products they need when they need it during a critical time of the year.
Well, I got you. I thought I would also ask you about some of the employment issues. We talked about the shortage of farm labor, but I know a lot of your retail members are really challenged trying to find people to work at some of the local stores.
Well, we need qualified drivers to make sure you're moving those products in a timely way, and also operating the application equipment. So we are part of a ag workforce coalition to try to get reforms to the H-2A program, for example, and try to find those qualified workers. We have our member companies working with the local community colleges to train locally, but they're still having a hard time finding workers. So we're looking for reforms to have younger drivers start, out of high school to get involved in our industry, but also reforms to the H-2A program as two key things to try to find ways to bring more labor, specialized ag labor to our workforce.
Richard, really appreciate you joining us here today. All the best to you.
All right, thank you very much. Good luck to you too.